You're going to remember this for a long time. It feels like 2016 all over again because Donald Trump's latest interview with NBC's Kristen Welker gives you a glimpse into the kind of wrecking ball that Trump is for the media. And you know what? I think you'll agree why when you notice the trap-laden interview that this was. Take a look at this because I think it's a sign of things to come.
Let's talk about mass deportation, one of your big agenda items. You've talked about prioritizing people who have criminal histories.
Correct.
But is it your plan to deport everyone who is here illegally over the next 4 years?
Well, I think you have to do it. And it's a very tough thing to do. But you have to have, you have rules, regulations, laws. They came in illegally. The people that have been treated very unfairly are the people that have been online for 10 years to come into the country. And we're going to make it very easy for people to come in terms of they have to pass the test. They have to be able to tell you what the Statue of Liberty is. They have to tell you a little bit about our country. They have to love our country.
Here's something that no one seems to be saying around Donald Trump's mass deportation plan. Despite the rhetoric, there's way too much logistical and legal challenge to slice away the 11 million or so illegal immigrants in the country. By the way, I'd love you to be part of these important conversations of our time, so subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay in the loop. Now, I think the reason why it's prohibitively difficult is not just because nearly 3.5 million of them are dreamers brought in as children who are protected from deportation under the DACA Act, but also because of how entrenched the principle of birthright citizenship is inside the U.S. Constitution with the 14th Amendment. So that got me wondering, what's the basis for the tough rhetoric we're seeing from both Trump and his border czar, Tom Homan?
We have seen one estimate that says it would cost $88 billion to deport 1 million people a year.
I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Is that what American taxpayers should expect?
What price do you put on national security? Is that worth it?
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
I think I know why we're seeing this. The answer's deterrence, and Kristen Welker knows that. Let's not forget that we've already seen the duo of Donald Trump and Tom Homan work closely together on the border crisis before, back in 2016, and even then the family separations we saw back then drew enough ire for the administration that they eventually had to rein in those electorally damaged policies. For better or worse, Donald Trump cares more about his image, and that's at least a handle for leverage that the Democrats have if they want to work with him. By the way, in a surprise move that has been appreciated even on a left-wing outlet like the Young Turks, Trump in his interview clearly stated that he wanted to work with the Democrats to help the millions of dreamers get a path to citizenship.
You raised the point that the logistics are complicated. You said
Sure
it yourself.
they are, but everything's complicated.
Yeah, you need 24 times more ICE detention capacity just to deport 1 million people per year, not to mention more agents, more judges, more planes. Is it realistic to deport everyone who's here illegally?
You have no choice. First of all, they're costing us a fortune. But we're starting with the criminals, and we got to do it. And then we're starting with others, and we're going to see how it goes.
Who are the others?
Others are other people outside of criminals. We have convicted murders. We don't mean people that are even on trial. We have people that have murdered numerous people are on our streets and in our farms, and we have to get them out of our country.
What about dreamers, sir? Dreamers who were brought to this country illegally as children. You said once back in 2017, they, quote, shouldn't be very worried about being deported. Should they be worried now?
The dreamers are going to come later, and we have to do something about the dreamers because these are people that have been brought here at a very young age, and many of these are middle-aged people now. They don't even speak the language of their country. And yes, we're going to do something about the dreamers.
What does that mean?
And
what are you going to do?
I will work with the Democrats on a plan, and if we can come up with a plan, but the Democrats have made it very, very difficult to do anything.
Now for some statistical context, Donald Trump deported a total of around 1.5 million people across his first 4-year presidency, which is lower on a yearly basis than Barack Obama's 5 million deportations across his 2 terms. The real difference between then and now is the pace of the illegal immigration and massive complications with millions of mixed status people as a result of chain migration. Of course, it's hard to predict what the second Trump presidency will look like as it regards the immigration crisis, but perhaps historical precedence tells you that his first priority will be to stop the flow and flood of illegal immigration at the border first, rather than slicing away a significant chunk of the country's population with a mass deportation drive that is both economically and politically damaging. But since that remains to be seen, I think it segues perfectly into the biggest voter issue that propelled Trump to the White House which is inflation.
But I want to delve into one of your signature promises on the campaign trail, which was to end inflation, to lower prices. You are now proposing tariffs against the United States' three biggest trading partners. Economists of all stripes say that ultimately consumers pay the price of tariffs.
I don't believe
Can
it.
you guarantee American families won't pay more?
I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee tomorrow. But I can say that if you look at just pre-COVID, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. And I had a lot of tariffs on a lot of different countries, but in particular China. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars, and we had no inflation. In fact, when I handed it over, they didn't have inflation for a year and a half. They went almost 2 years just based on what I had created. And then they created inflation with energy and with spending too much. So I think I'm a big believer in tariffs. I think tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful. It's going to make us rich. We're subsidizing Canada to the tune of over $100 billion a year. We're subsidizing Mexico for almost $300 billion. We shouldn't be subsidizing. Why are we subsidizing these countries? If we're going to subsidize them, let them become a state.
By the way, Trump took that last part straight to the Canadian Prime Minister when he joked about making Canada another U.S. state if he would allow heavily subsidized trade between the two North American nations. But I don't know why anyone that speaks about Trump's economic policy on tariffs forgets that they're part of a broader holistic strategy to bring down inflation. Kristen said American families would pay more as a result of international tariffs, but isn't that true either way? In the end, the consumer ends up paying more no matter if you raise your taxes to get the money directly, raise tariffs on imports, or just print more money, which causes inflation and reduces purchasing power. And that last part is even truer in the Biden presidency, with nearly $6 trillion added to the money supply in a short amount of time. While it's easy enough to pluck one policy to criticize, tariffs are exported to be part of the broader economic change that embraces fossil fuels, cuts down the government waste, and establishes favorable foreign trade. Not just that, people seem to miss how big of a leverage tariffs are in the world of international diplomacy as a negotiation tool. There's even been word that one of Donald Trump's tools to force countries like Russia and Ukraine to sit together on the negotiation table is threatening 100% tariffs on their exports. Now, while it's fair to disagree with that all you want, the conversation cannot start by plucking one policy position from a holistic set and practically lying by omission. And when Donald Trump finally called out Kristen Welker for it, I think we got to see a highlight of this entire interview.
Let me ask you this about
It's
January
amazing.
6th.
I wish you could be you have such potential. If you could be just non-biased, you hurt yourself so badly. I'm telling you, they deleted and destroyed all the evidence. Everyone knows it. And you slough it off like it doesn't mean anything.
No, I'm just saying they deny it. That's all I'm saying.
Kristen, if I did it, you would be standing up in that chair shouting at me. And you know what I'd do? I'd say, you got me.
And remember, this is a more toned-down version of Donald Trump going after the media than we've seen in the last decade. Right now, the second Trump presidency is shaping up to be a radical departure from the last 4 years, and perhaps that's what the electorate voted for. What's incredible is that in all of the media storm around Trump, we almost seem to forget that Joe Biden is still the president and the man to hold the account, and especially in the light of the multiple pardons he's done as a lasting legacy, including one for his son. But let me know in the comments how you see the next 4 years taking shape, because Trump is entering a similar phase of his political career as Joe Biden after he completes this last constitutional term.